I want to welcome you to the February 5th, 2025 Governor and Executive Council meeting. Before we start, for those who haven't already, I would ask you to please take a moment to silence your cell phones or other electronic devices in consideration of everyone who has joined us in the meeting today. Thank you. I would like to, the breakfast meeting was hosted by Councilor Leo Hill, and she is going to introduce the individuals who are going to lead us in prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor.
Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce Pastor Stephanie Pope from the Community Lutheran Church in Enfield to offer our prayer before the meeting today. It's especially nice for me because I'm a member of her congregation.
It's all right. For a minute, I was afraid to smile.
It's a nice song, but...
God of all, you create order from chaos. Sometimes our lives, our communities feel less ordered and more chaotic. You made us human beings and made us good. May we always look to see the good in one another. Sometimes we seek out faults, ways to break down or dismiss others. You made us to function well together. Sometimes it seems we exist in dysfunction. You provide food, shelter, relationships, and gifts, and abundance to care for all you have made. Sometimes we focus more on what we don't have than what we do. You lift up those who are poor, laid low, hungry, weak, powerless. Sometimes we favor the rich, the powerful, the well-fed, the well-connected. We pray for these people gathered here who are in positions of leadership and trust in our communities, who are called to serve, to use their gifts to govern for the good of all, and for the caretaking of this beautiful bit of planet with which you have entrusted us, that they may be honest and trustworthy, that we may live well together. We pray that these leaders would serve with humility, compassion, and grace. We pray that you would be present in their midst to give them courage and wisdom, to guide their words and actions in upholding our common good, to encourage care for your creation, to nurture and heal relationships, not further divides, and to defend human rights. We pray that they act wisely and justly, protect all people, causing no harm, regardless of who we are or where we come from. Although we may disagree about the best ways to achieve the public good, Lord, encourage us and hold us steadfast in seeking it together. Amen.
Thank you.
And Jill Marsh will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. She is a student at New Hampshire Technical Institute and is the current Miss New Hampshire Collegiate.
And I believe the first from a community college, right?
Yes.
To hold this great position. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
It's great. And we have some very important commendations today that I'm honored. This is also from Councilor Leo Hill's district and her recommendation. And we're going to be recognizing the Lebanon Police and Fire Department for their response to the Dairy World fire, which was a very heroic incident where they saved lives in Lebanon, and we're grateful to be able to recognize them here today. And I have a commendation for each of them, so I will read one of the commendations. We'd love to give each of you a commendation. So if you please, the Lebanon Police and Fire would please come forward today. So these commendations recognize both the Lebanon Police and Fire Departments, and each of them will receive one, but each of these officers were incredibly heroic in this incident. We're so glad to have you here. And then we want to make sure you can go back to Lebanon because we need you to be back here keeping your community safe. But we're just so excited to have you here today, and thank you for your important work, not just in this incident, but every single day on behalf of the people of New Hampshire and your community. So recognizing, there'll be one recognizing recognizing both the Lebanon Police Department and the Lebanon Fire Department. Whereas on the evening of January 9th, 2025, members of the Lebanon Police and Fire Departments responded with extraordinary bravery and decisive action to a structure fire in Lebanon, ensuring the safety of all occupants and preventing further loss or life of liberty. And whereas Sergeant Logan Scalza, Corporal Dean Bullock, Officer Kevin Champney, Officer Stephen Nix, and Officer Matthew Kaufman of the Lebanon Police Department were the first to arrive on the scene, where they quickly identified 3 individuals stranded on a roof and used a nearby vehicle to assist them to safety, demonstrating ingenuity and determination. And whereas Captain Jonathan Copeland, Lieutenant John Cook, firefighter Ian Dewey, firefighter Christian Wild, firefighter Alex Hone of the Lebanon Fire Department arrived shortly thereafter and immediately initiated fire suppression efforts, swiftly bringing the fire under control and preventing its spread to neighboring buildings. And whereas the coordination, courage, and professionalism displayed by these first responders reflected the highest standards of public service, highlighting the critical role of police officers and firefighters in keeping New Hampshire the safest state in the nation. And whereas the actions of the Lebanon Police and Fire Departments on that night exemplify their unwavering commitment to the safety and well-being of the citizens of Lebanon and stand as a testament to their values, dedication, teamwork, and service. And now, therefore, I, Kelly Ayotte, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby commend the Lebanon Fire Department and Police Department and those officers involved for their heroic work on that day, and we thank you very much for being here. And I don't know if any of you want to say something to the council, but thank you for what you do. Appreciate it. I'm sure that the governor and councilors would love to get a picture with all of you.
Chiefs, why don't you join us for the picture?
Thanks, Chief. You must be very proud of her. We have to meet so we can all get together for a picture. Got everyone.
I need everyone to pack it.
Zoe.
All right. All good right here. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
We also have a musical performance today, and I believe that Councilor Leo Hill will introduce our performers.
I'd love to. This is a treat for me to be able to feature people from throughout District 2 as I get to host my first Executive Council meeting. Terry Ray Gould and Susie Hastings are the duo known as Second Wind. They've been playing together for over 20 years, and they have deep roots. They're both from New Hampshire, and in fact, Susie's mom was Ethel Jarvis, who was a longtime Sullivan County Commissioner, so she even has roots to New Hampshire public service as well. You'll hear them at lots of farmers markets over the summer and other events. They've recently started a program where they offer free guitar lessons to veterans. We're lucky to have them today, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see, no, I won't be afraid, no, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Whoa, stand by me. Stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed tears, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me.
like the way you're sparkling
earrings glisten against your skin so brown. I want to sleep with you in the desert tonight, with a million stars all around. I got a peaceful, easy feeling. I know you won't let me down. Already standing on the ground. I found out a long time ago what a woman can do to your soul. Ah, but she can take you anyway. You don't already know how it goes. I got a peaceful, easy feeling, and I know you won't let me down. Already standing on the ground. is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled and followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond desert. And all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. The sun was shining as I was strolling, the wheat fields waving and dust clouds rolling. The fog was lifting, a voice came chanting. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Erin.
Do a picture? Do a picture? I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
You're right, the center. Here, you guys come here. We can't see you here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
All ready, everyone, here, ready, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you so much. That was really fun. Oops.
Awesome, thank you.
Did you get it? Did you get it? Okay. Thank you for getting us all to sing too. Thanks for working that with us. Thank you, our pleasure. Thank you so much.
I call this meeting of the Governor and Executive Council to order, and I ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the January 15, 2025 council meeting.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed, the motion carries. Next, from the Office of the Secretary of State, we have civil commissions. Can I please have a motion to confirm the list of civil commissions?
So moved.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries, and the list of civil commissions is approved. Are there any nominations to be placed on the list? Hearing none, the matter of civil commissions is concluded. Next, we'll move to resignations from the Board of Registration of Funeral Directors. and embalmers, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Vincent A. Biachetti III of Gillington Ironworks effective December 4th, 2024?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Connecticut Lakes Headwaters Citizens Committee, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Harry Brown of Stewartstown effective October 4th, 2024?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Council for Responsible Gambling, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Debbie A. LaPlante of Salem effective January 2nd, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Council for Responsible Gambling, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Heather M. Gray from Derry effective January 2nd, 2025?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the State Board of Fire Control, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Scott E. Hunter from New Boston effective January 2nd, 2025?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Andrea E. M. Brochu of Jefferson effective October 8th, 2024?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Board of Medicine, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Richard G. Cardell of Gorham effective February 5th, 2025?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Board of Psychologists, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Robert P. Walrath of Merrimack effective February 5th, 2025?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Board of Foresters, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Stephen S. Roberge of Peterborough effective February 5th, 2025?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Board of Landscape Architects, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Leo F. Urban of Manchester effective February 5th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the State Board of Education, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of James F. LeBeau effective February 26th, 2025?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. From the Board of Mental Health Practice, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Christina A. Gribben of Plymouth effective February 5th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries and the resignation is accepted. Now moving forward with a list of confirmations. Can I please have a motion to confirm Patricia Peters of Barrington to the State Liquor Commission Division of Administration Director?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the motion carries. Moving on to the list of nominations. To the Connecticut Lakes Headwaters Citizens Committee, I nominate Keith Robinson of Pittsburgh. To the State Board of Education, at large, I nominate Ann Lane of Durham. To the State Board of Education, District 2, I nominate James F. LeBeau of Hopkinton. To the State Board of Education, District 4, I nominate Andrew Klein of Bedford. To the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors, I nominate Aaron Dupuy of Epping. To the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors, representing the business community, I nominate Terry Gupta of Merrimack. To the Board of Trustees of the New Hampshire Retirement System, holding the permanent fireman member nomination is by the State Permanent Firemen's Association, I nominate Captain Andrew Martineau of Bow. To the Board of Registration of Funeral Directors and Embalmers, I nominate Timothy Eldridge of Effingham. To the Personnel Appeals Board, Division of Personnel, I nominate Donald Frechette, Esquire of East Wakefield. To the Business Finance Authority, I nominate Stephen M. Dupree of Concord. To the Business Finance Authority, I nominate Cheryl Coletti-Lawson of Henniker. To the Board of Dental Examiners, for the dentist position, I nominate Dr. Salman Malik of Londonderry. To the Executive Branch Ethics Committee, I nominate Richard Merck of Westmoreland. To the Pharmacy Board representing the pharmacists, I nominate William L. Urban of Wyndham. That concludes the list of nominations for today's meeting. Moving on, I ask for a motion to adopt the consent calendar agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion or request to remove items from the consent calendar? Councilor Kenny.
Hi, Governor. Thank you, Governor. I just wanted to make a clerical correction on 3A. Although I appreciate Councilor Dave Will's initiative attending that hearing. I was there in Tilton, at the Frank Tilton room with HEPA and the master to go over their proposals. So it should read Councilor Joseph E. Kenny.
Is this 3A?
This is 3A, Governor, yes.
I think they submitted Governor.
It's really interesting because mine says you on it, so perhaps.
If I can clarify,
Yeah.
we discovered the mistake yesterday
Okay.
and realized that Councilor Wheeler does not represent Tilton. And Dawn in my office corrected that Secretary of State has the right copy. I think everyone has the right copy, but the agenda, obviously, it's already published, so if the item is correct, the agenda is not, but we can update.
We'll update the public agenda so that everyone knows that,
Apologize.
of course, you represent the area. And also, I know the one before me is correctly allocated, but thank you for raising it. I think Councilor Wheeler has.
4B, please.
Yes. So that item will be removed from the consent calendar. Okay. Okay, great. Any other items for discussion or removal from the consent calendar? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve all the consent agenda items with the exception of 4B that was removed. So moved. No on 4D then. Okay. No on 4D. So if I could have since we have a motion and a second, could I have, are you a yes on everything else? Yes. Okay. So on the other items?
Aye.
Aye. From the other councilors, thank you. So all the items passed with your no vote noted on the one item. Okay. So now we'll move for discussion on item 4B that was removed from the consent calendar.
Governor, I move we table item 4B.
Second?
Is there any discussion?
That's why.
Well, the tabling motion's not debatable unless we're going to ask you for a tabling motion.
Well, then I'll ask for a vote then on the tabling motion.
Yes?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. All right, the item is tabled, and then we can go forward if you need further information, clarification from the guard.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
We are now moving on to the regular agenda, and I ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 7 from the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Behavioral Health. So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the item carries. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 8 and 9 from the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children, Youth, and Families. So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
I have just a question for the Commissioner. Is,
Good morning, Lori Weaver, Health and Human Services Commissioner.
thank you, Commissioner, I'm very supportive of this item. I wanted to also
Could you
thank you.
clarify which one?
Number 8.
8.
I wanted to thank you for the speedy and prompt response of Director Lippman on the eligibility issue at the last meeting. Thank you for that. I just wanted to know if you could provide the council like that with data on the number of kids that we have in DCY currently that are out of state, and just so we have an idea of the issue and then maybe a trend. Are we moving more kids out of state, or are we lowering our kids out of state?
Sure, I can follow up and get you that
That's all.
information.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have the data.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further questions on these two items for the Commissioner? If not, I would ask all in favor of items 8 through 9, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the items carry. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 10 and 11 from the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Economic Stability.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Councilor Kenny.
Thank you. Morning, Commissioner.
Good, how are you?
You look down around people.
Do I know some? Do you know something I don't know?
No, you know, childcare issues are a passionate topic of mine. But I'd like to go over agenda number 10, and specifically about where we've been and where we're going. And a couple of questions is this federal money that's drying up versus state revenues that we're using potentially in the future, and just kind of explain to where we're at with this particular program, because this particular, child scholarship program has been so important to families throughout the state of New Hampshire, and I want to give them a sense of hope and optimism, going into the future as well.
Sure, and I'll have Karen come up and give you the history of the CCDF grant, the Child Care Development Fund grant, which is a 3-year grant, and the good news that she also has to share about recent uptake.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Karen Hebert. I'm the Division Director for Economic Stability. So the CCDF fund, I think you used the term drying up. Is that what I heard you say?
Well, I'm always using drying up in front of the government in general.
Okay, so there's no indication of that
Okay.
for the Child Care Development Fund. So what this particular item does is a really great example of what it is that we're doing and trying to make sure we're optimizing the federal funds that we do receive for this child care subsidy. So there's been a significant increase in utilization of the subsidy, which is great. That's what we expected, that's what we wanted, that's what we planned for. So this essentially is to ensure that, like I said, we're optimizing, the federal funds in order to make sure that more families have access to quality childcare. So that we continue to go down that path.
So my follow-up question, much like the SNAP program, are young families participating in the scholarship program?
Yes, yes. So what we're seeing is quite a jump in utilization of the scholarship program, 44% in the last year.
Excellent.
Nice question. There was an increase in eligibility, correct, in terms of the matrix that the state increased to allow more families to access that?
Yes, yes. We increased eligibility, income limits. We also increased payment rates for the provider community and shifted to an enrollment-based method where it used to be an attendance-based method. So that has made just greater use of those particular federal funds that are available.
So where's childcare today in New Hampshire from your perspective? Is it stabilized?
It's stabilized, yes. So, and I make reference to where we came from through the COVID era, we'll refer to it that way, where we were able to stabilize childcare. I've seen a pretty even level of the number of providers in the state. Of course, there are a number who are closing, others are opening, others still merging, but it's not the situation that we would have had, say, a year or 2 years ago. So I think we're in a good place. I've seen more interest in licensing, for example, of other providers, so it seems to be going in the right direction.
Well, Governor, we're opening up the Child Care Center in Berlin on the 14th of February. You're going to White Mountain Community College, so that's an indication that good things are happening in child care. And so I see a child care contract for I think the Gorham Family Resource Center that's on the agenda today.
On Valentine's Day, that's awesome.
Yeah, for his baby for Valentine's Day. Or child, I should say. But no, it's just a passion, and it's something you kind of get a pulse because I'm not getting phone calls from my executive directors. Then he was doing a good job.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So on items 10 and 11, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed, the items carried. And I ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 12 from the Department of Health and Human Services Hampstead Hospital and Residential Treatment Facility.
So moved.
Second.
Do you have a question for the Commissioner?
Councilor Leoto.
While you're here on Hempstead Hospital, could you give us an update on the status? I understand that there's been a closing with Department of Health.
Correct, we closed at 11:30 a.m. on Monday the 3rd. Yes.
Excellent. And the transition has gone smoothly, I take it? Is there any update about staffing? I think there were questions at the last meeting. I think everyone has been offered, all the state employees have been made offers by Dartmouth Health, and has that come to a conclusion?
All intentions with employment have been fulfilled, so if that was the state requiring to go with the state, we're going with Dartmouth. Offers were made, positions were accepted. Maybe a couple of people decided not to stay, but the hospital is staffed.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning. I would say it's off to a great start when you look at the fact that in a matter of 3 days, 9 more beds have gone online. We've watched ER boarding drop from 17 to about 12 or 13. So well done. And I'd like to give a shout out to Justin Mooser, who had the opportunity to become a state employee. He's currently the CEO. And he felt it was critical and important to stay with his team during this transition. He's stellar, and we just have to hang on to him.
Yeah, we're very grateful that he's at the helm. And I'll just note, I mean, in terms of Mission Zero, we have hit 0 in the adult ED boarding several times at the end of last year and expect to do so again. And the children's wait list will continue to drop as we see the steady and the transition is now complete, moving in that direction. And the goal for that is 0 as well.
Well done.
Thank you.
Question, Governor. This is just future reference again, maybe informational purposes, and I talked to Councilor Stevens about the length of stay, to look at the length, be able to look at the length of stay. And I'm sure the department is looking at that to make sure that these children are transitioned in the community with appropriate wraparound services. And so,
Yes, that is the goal.
as we go for future meetings to discuss this topic, I'd like to know that the length of stay is at least being looked at and maybe even being reduced.
I can tell you that now. Length
Yeah,
of stay is
but-
the first thing. Discharge planning begins the minute the kid is admitted.
Excellent.
Where is the patient, kid going next?
What is the average length of stay at the Hempstead?
It really depends, but it's less than, it should be about 14 days. We do have kids that get stuck in our system because they don't have a place to go, but that's part of our work, is to be able to build up more capacity at Hempstead Hospital. We're talking about intensive outpatient, so not everyone needs a level of inpatient psychiatric care, but does need some level of psychiatric care, as well as building out capacity for places for kids to go, which is foster care, kinship care, if we can. So we're looking at all of those pieces. It's a system, right? It's all of the pieces.
In final motion, Governor, the Intercept program that is being used at the department, is that connected to the Hempstead project?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So hearing none, I ask for a vote in favor of signifying aye to item 12.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, the item carries. See, I asked for a motion, sorry, not item 12, let me just, that's correct, okay. So I asked for a motion to adopt agenda items 13 through 15 from the Department of Health and Human Services, New Hampshire Hospital.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Council Wheeler?
Governor, on item 15, this is a contract with ultimately Dr. Hitchcock in Lebanon. And the way I understand it is Dr. Hitchcock Lebanon has not been in compliance with state law requiring COVID vaccinations before certain operations. I understand that they partially corrected that position, but they have not fully corrected that position. So after discussion, I'm going to move that we put item 15 on the table until Dartmouth decides to comply with the law.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second for this tabling item for number 15, and so could I please have a vote?
A point of order. I understand that a tabling motion is not debatable, but it's also...
I did say after discussion.
Okay, after this, because I would like to ask the question, if that's okay. Thank you. What is the impact of this tabling this motion? Does this mean that people will not receive treatment that they need? Could you give us some more information, please?
I would just like to clarify that we're not performing any surgeries at New Hampshire Hospital. This is a service.
I said services, I didn't say...
No, that's fine. I just want to clarify to Councilor Wheeler's point. They did reverse their decision, and I understand that there's a few outstanding clarifications that our Attorney General has been working with Dartmouth and is expecting an answer by Friday. So in terms of this is about serving the current patients that are receiving psychiatric care that may need a medical intervention at this point with this electrocardiogram, right? So this isn't about surgery. So I understand the table, if you want to table, my understanding from Attorney Formella is, Attorney General Formella, is that we should have an answer by Friday.
I'd like to call the Attorney General forward to clarify, because it's a specific question about the vaccination. Attorney General, could you offer an insight on where Dartmouth Hitchcock is on their policies on the vaccination?
Absolutely, Governor. Just to give the counselors a little background. So as you might have seen a couple of weeks ago, we did get some outreach and some indication that Dartmouth Health had a policy in place that required the COVID-19 vaccination in order to receive a kidney transplant. We reached out to Dartmouth Health, communicated with them. That policy was in place. They reversed that policy, so that policy is no longer in place. We've had additional follow-up with Dartmouth Health to determine whether there are any other policies in place that require vaccination for any procedures or surgeries. we're working on getting that information back. We expect to have a response by Friday. So I think we'll be in a better place to know where we're at with this by Friday. But we're continuing to follow up and communicate with Dartmouth Health on the issue.
Commissioner, do you have something to add to that?
Thank you. I just wanted to add that Dartmouth is one of our clinical providers. The state runs the state hospital. So Dartmouth is a provider, and it's state policies that we have. I just want to clarify that.
Councilor.
Just a question, Attorney General. What stands to reason, though, if the policy that just came out for the replacement of kidneys, there's no COVID shot requirement, wouldn't it stand to reason that there would be no other requirement for any other type of surgery to have a COVID shot?
We don't believe they have a requirement for a COVID vaccine for any other procedure. But the patient bill of rights says that care cannot be denied based solely on vaccination status. So this really applies to any procedure or surgery. So once we interfaced with Dartmouth on the issue regarding the kidney transplant policy, we wanted to follow up with them and make sure they didn't have any other policy like that in place. They're a large health system. They've been cooperating with us. We've had good communication. So they're conducting that review. And so I think, yes, it would stand to reason, but I don't want to give a definitive answer here before they've given us a definitive answer. And they've been cooperative. They're doing the work to make sure that none of those policies are in place. But I want to give them the chance to finish that work and respond to us.
Well, I just wanted to add, I appreciate you giving them the ability to respond to questions. But it would be interesting to know, from Dartmouth's perspective, is there absolutely a COVID shot requirement for any other procedure that is really not thought of or known at this time? Because I got to believe if you're replacing a vital organ like a kidney, and there's no COVID shot requirement, there shouldn't really be any other requirement for any other type of COVID shot for any other type of procedure.
And that's what the patient bill of rights says. And so they're going to respond to us on that. I think to be fair to them, like I said, they're a large health system. They do a lot of procedures. They have a lot going on. They have a lot of various policies in place, and they're, I think, being diligent in conducting review to give us a full and clear answer.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, General, the Dartmouth will confirm for us that they're following state law and patient bill of rights with all their procedures.
Correct.
They just want to make sure that there's nothing they missed.
Correct.
Got it.
And we expect to have that information by Friday. If that changes, we'll certainly let you know, but we expect to have that information by Friday.
And could you distribute that to the council? That'd be helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Governor, I thank you for clarifying that, because we're talking all procedures,
Right.
all vaccinations, not just COVID.
Correct.
And that's really important for us to hear. And I wanted to thank the General, because as soon as we started getting calls from constituents, he got right on this. And thank Dartmouth too for being responsive to make sure that we're clear. And the other issue is, I just want to be sure, Commissioner, we were looking at this contract. There's only 50 people that have been served with this type of treatment over the last 3 years. And this type of neural physiology type evaluation is not going to be detrimental to patients that we wait 1 month, I'm sure, looking at it. And
Yeah, I was just looking at in terms of the timeframes. I think we can wait for Friday and bring it back for next meeting. I don't want to wait longer than necessary. If we have an answer, then I think we should bring it back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Now I move the table.
Second.
Item 15.
I had the second before.
Yeah.
Okay. Council, okay, so I have to take a roll call on this. All in favor of the table motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed to the tabling motion? Okay, so the tabling motion succeeds for 15. I believe we also need a motion for the remaining items of 13 and 14. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 None opposed, those items 13 and 14 carry. And then we'll hopefully take item 15 back as soon as we have that information at our next meeting, Commissioner. Because we don't want to delay any services. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 16 through 18 from the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Public Health Services.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed, the item is carried.
And Governor, I have a question for the Commissioner while she's here.
Well, there's nothing pending. Well, since we just went through the items, there's nothing pending from Health and Human Services right now, so
If I have
is there something
off-topic,
relevant to
if I have an off-topic item, then do I bring it up prior to the item?
Yeah, I think it would also be helpful. I know the Commissioner is quite available too, outside of the council meeting too, if there's something off-topic. That's also another venue. I assume you'd be available at the council?
Always.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'm sure if the councilor has a question after the meeting, you'd be willing to speak to her about it.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
I do have my table items, though.
Can we take those on? Okay. So, well, there you go, you did. So we will go to the tabling items. Those in the back. So I would ask for a motion on tabled items 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 30, not 36, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 from the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Commissioner.
So moved.
Any discussion? And Counselor, you could ask your question now since we're on Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Councilor.
No discussion, so you vote on taking it off.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, first up, is there a motion to remove the items from the table?
I think that's what we did.
Yeah. And a second.
And I seconded it. I think Councilor Stevens made a motion to take it off the table. And
To take them off the table, that's right. So we can have discussion now.
No, you have to vote on it.
we'll vote to take it off the table, and then we'll vote on the main motion.
And then, okay, learning all this stuff. Okay. So we'll have a vote on those items that were tabled that I just identified. All in favor of taking those items off the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The items are not taken off the table then. And there's no opportunity for discussion. Okay, so the opportunity for discussion is over.
Can I ask, is there discussion about these items that we just took off the table? No, because we didn't take them off the table.
They're on the table still.
It's at the very end of the meeting, you can ask for the governor for a personal privilege if you want to talk about something complicated. That's usually what we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 20 through 24 and 26 through 40 from the department. And 20 through 24 and 26 through 40 from the Department of Transportation.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
Yeah. Actually,
Councilor Leono.
thank you.
Good morning, Governor and Councilors. David Rotary, Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Transportation and Chief Engineer.
And I'm Margaret Greer, Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Last week, there was the announcement of a pause by the federal government, and then there's been some uncertainty about the impact or about the status of the pause on federal grants. Could you please provide us with an update? What is the latest information that you have about the pause and what the impact could be on our department operation?
We are not experiencing a pause at this time. At this time, all of our federal aid projects are moving forward as planned. There is some uncertainty as to exactly what the future is for some discretionary grants, but we have a pretty high confidence that our formula funding is going to continue, and we will continue to function as we have.
And for just slight additional information that came out yesterday on the discretionary grants, that is the U.S. Department of Transportation issued their new guidelines for criteria that will be applied to every discretionary grant, and also encouraged us to use those criteria for formula funds. The previous administration had used what's called the Justice 40 criteria, wherein 40% of all benefit has to go to underserved communities. The new administration issued a different set of criteria along the same lines to favor direct funding for user pay models, to favor areas with high birth rates, for recipients to not engage in any sort of vaccine or mask mandates, and also for local compliance with federal immigration enforcement. So those will be the new criteria. The Department of Transportation, New Hampshire Department of Transportation, is always compliant with federal guidelines. It's just, these were just issued. They'll be elaborating information that will be released to us in the coming weeks.
The state of New Hampshire is one of the oldest states in the nation with one of the lowest birth rates in the nation. Do you have any information, or how do you anticipate that this might affect our ability or the communities of New Hampshire to compete for federal grants in the future?
What should be released to us in the coming weeks is a set of maps that will show areas within our state. They don't take the state as a whole. They'll actually break it down by census tracts, and they will provide us information as to which communities best meet the criteria, which don't. We don't anticipate that this will cause any problems. In the last Justice 40, we're also a state that doesn't have a lot of communities that meet those criteria, but we were nevertheless granted discretionary grants. So it's one criteria among many that USDOT will use. We do not anticipate any adverse impacts for us.
And lastly, there's been the announcement of tariffs. Would you be able to tell us what the impact of tariffs would be on our construction projects?
So the impact is uncertain. So as an engineer, I like to deal in facts. As an administrator and as an assistant commissioner, I also deal with risk. So tariffs could be one risk of many to the cost of our projects. What I can tell you is the way our projects are structured, there are certain risks that we as a department share in with the contractors who bid on our projects. 3 of those ways that we share in risk is we have a fuel adjustment for our contracts, we have an asphalt adjustment for our contracts, and we have a steel adjustment for our contracts, which means if during the duration of the contract, those commodity prices raise beyond a certain threshold, we will compensate the contractors for those. The other items, the contractors carry the risk.
Councilor Stevens. Good morning, Mr. Rodriguez. I have made several attempts to obtain the list of surplus properties being managed by DOT, and I'm still waiting, and I have several concerns. I eventually turned to the state's right-of-way manual. It was last updated in 2017. I think it could use some improvement. But in the manual, it clearly states that DOT's property management section is responsible for tracking an inventory of surplus properties in a database called Potential State Surplus Management. So how difficult can it be to access this information?
So thank you for your question, Councilor, and I am working very hard to get you that list of properties. So that list of properties is contained in the database, and the Department of Transportation has a number of databases, some of which are up to the most current standards. Unfortunately, that surplus lands database is in old standards, and as we tried to pull that take over plans to meet their request. We are having some trouble with the database, pulling that out. We do have people working on it, and we'll get it to you just as soon as we can.
Well, the database should be in a hazmat interface, correct?
A hazmat interface?
Yeah, that's the term that you're using in the right-of-way manual. And when I say surplus land, I'm referring, and I'm inclusive of right-of-way properties that are sitting idle.
Yes, yes, and we are working on that list. When it comes to hazmat lands, we do have separate lists and separate databases. I assume that that's referring to properties that are contaminated, but without reading the manual in front of me, I can't say that. I'd be glad to talk to you about that.
Well, and isn't this something that we would be doing gradually along during these acquisitions of right-of-way properties? They should be in the database, in the system, correct?
Yes, they should be in the database.
Thank you. I look forward to reviewing.
Councilor Stephen.
I have questions, thank you, Assistant Commissioner, on 37, 38, and 40. When looking at these items, 37 is $640,000 over estimate, 12.5% over your estimate. 38 is 13.82% above estimates. 40, $6 million over estimate, which is 36%. I mean, when I read these as a counselor, I mean, I care deeply about the highway fund, being a former deputy commissioner of safety, turnpike fund, all these funds are important. I mean, what is the reason for your department not coming in with at least a reasonable amount of estimate if the construction prices or the resurfacing prices are going up? Or do we not have enough bidders? I mean, this is alarming to see this substantial over an estimate by our own state.
Yes, thank you for the question, and we agree. What I can tell you is we do update our estimates and our estimating process for each project as we prepare it to go out to bid. There are things that influence the cost of our projects. Some of these resurfacing projects that came in higher, at least the turnpike one, includes a lot of night work, and we misjudged the premium that the contractors are putting on night work these days as they work to keep truck drivers and laborers to cover multiple shifts throughout the day. With respect to the Jaffrey project, that's in the southwestern portion of the state. It's a little bit removed from where our regular contractors have their workforce and like to work. So we did see prices higher there on that contract across the board. So we did underestimate it, but we do work to be current with our estimates on each project as we prepare it to go out to bid based on history.
So if I follow up, Governor, just on 40 along the Jaffrey project you just mentioned, I mean, if we were to table that item and see if we can get a lower bid at 36%, $6 million estimate, is that something that would be detrimental to our ability to go forward? Is it something that your department could find a bid that's closer in line with your own estimate? I mean, that's $6 million out of a $23 million project.
So thank you for your question. We do not believe that rebidding that project would bring a lower price. We do a bid analysis for each project. On that particular project, the items across the board, both the road work and the bridge work, exceeded our estimated cost. I believe we had 2 bidders for that project. Again, because of the location, I do not anticipate more bidders. In our experience, often, unless we can change something with the project to entice bidders that did not originally bid, our experience when we rebid projects like that is they come in higher.
Assistant Commissioner, can I ask you a question? Are you subject to inflation and other economic, environmental factors?
And absolutely.
And so do things change because of inflation? And also, if we delay projects, could that increase costs?
That could increase costs. So for instance, in our 10-year plan, which we'll be updating this year, the last plan that we updated, we carried a 3.2% inflation rate. So we always try to account for inflation. In construction, we have two drivers. One is what we call escalation. That escalation is the increase in cost beyond inflation, beyond what we can easily predict, and is driven by more volatile impacts such as workforce, material costs, and other things.
I appreciate the response, and I understand the governor's point. I just want to make sure our estimates are being done appropriately. It just seems like in administrative services as well, the estimates we're seeing are a lot lower than some of the costs we're getting in construction projects overall. I understand it's rising, but we need to on the front end.
Well, and we're happy to look at that. Obviously, we want accurate estimates and work with the departments on those issues.
Thank you.
They are important.
Thank you.
I could offer one more thing. We have met with our contractors to really try to get our hands around that. And what we see is there's certain parts of the state where our bids will be much closer to what we're predicting, and certain parts of the state that the contractors, employees need to travel further, or contractors are coming from further away, that we see those big cost pressures. We're working to learn to be able to do better with that.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner.
Can I ask a
Counselor
question?
Kenny.
It wasn't too long ago, we had DOT shut up north where the contractor backed out of the contract because of the escalation of cost. Do you have contractors within, say, the last 6 months to a year that have backed out of contracts?
We do not. We do not. All our contractors have followed through on their bid obligations and are going forward.
That's a good sign. Thank you.
It's a good sign.
And obviously, we'd love to have more people bid on the projects, so we want to make sure that people are aware of these projects and that as many businesses are able to bid, especially New Hampshire businesses. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So I would ask, first of all, any further discussion on these items? If not, I would all in favor signify by saying aye on items 20 through 24 and 26 through 40.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, the items carry. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 41 and 42 from the Office of Professional Licensure and Certification. So moved. Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye, please. Aye. None opposed, the items carry. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 43 and 44 from the Community Development and Finance Authority. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Governor?
Councilor Wheeler.
I recuse myself from voting on item 44.
So noted. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of these two items, let's say aye with, of course, the recusal noted. All in favor? Aye. None opposed, with the exception of the recusal. Those items pass. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 45 and 46 from the Judicial Council. So moved. Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed, the items carry. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 47 from the Office of the Consumer Advocate. So moved. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question for the consumer advocate.
Good morning, Governor and Councilors. I'm Donald Priest, consumer advocate. And for the benefit of those of you who haven't met me before, I lead the scrappy little state agency whose job is to represent the interests of residential utility customers of this state everywhere. But usually you'll find us at the Public Utilities Commission and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
Thank you. Thank you. And I have two questions for you. One is, I understand that there is legislation pending in the New Hampshire House to do away with the position of the office, with the position of the consumer advocate. So you have an agenda item here. I guess, can you, with the threat of elimination, can you talk to us about that, please?
Certainly, thank you for that question. Of course, the item before you is our annual dues to our National Association, and you're talking about House Bill 610, which, if it becomes law, we wouldn't be paying dues to our National Association anymore because we would no longer exist. I personally think that it is vitally important that ratepayers, especially residential ratepayers, have the kind of voice that we provide. And we are independent of the executive branch agencies that pursue various policy initiatives. And an example I thought of while I was sitting here this morning has to do with offshore wind. I go to meetings all the time where people in the executive branch debate about the virtues and vices of offshore wind. Some people think it's going to be great for the environment. Some people think it's going to be great for economic development in places like Portsmouth. My job is to stand up at meetings where those questions come up and say, well, what's it going to cost? What impact on the ratepayers? And interestingly, the answer I'll often get, at least in the previous administration, was, well, Massachusetts and Maine are going to pay for it. And from my perspective, as the advocate for the state's residential utility customers, that's great. I mean, whether offshore wind is good or bad, that's for other people to debate in terms of its environmental stuff. But I'm worried about ratepayer impacts, and I express those worries everywhere I go, at the PUC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and other forums. And I don't have the authority to do anything, I'm just an advocate, and that's why I'm called a consumer advocate. But I raise those issues, and I try to do them vigilantly.
Thank you. And my second question, with regard to consumers, do you have any information about the potential impact of the tariffs on New Hampshire utility consumers?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Counselor. You're talking about
On electric rates, on natural gas.
the impact of what?
Tariffs.
Oh, tariffs. I'm sorry. In the world of utility regulation, tariffs are actually, that word has a different meaning to people like me. That's the terms and conditions that utilities use to provide services.
I'm talking about the tariffs, the anticipated 25% tariffs on Canada.
Yes, indeed. We are very concerned about the potential for tariffs on Canadian electricity imports in particular that will have an upward effect on all of our electric bills. And the same can be said, I think, about oil imports, but oil isn't a regulated utility industry, and so I don't have the authority to worry about that. The same is also true of natural gas. Natural gas, a fair amount of it is sometimes imported into the U.S. We in New Hampshire are not reliant on natural gas from Canada in particular. So my answer to your question is yes, we're very worried about that with respect to its potential effect on electricity rates. I was very happy to see that the President decided to put that question off for a month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I would ask all in favor of the item number 47. Aye. Say aye, please. Aye. None opposed, the item carries. Thank you. Appreciate it. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 48 from the Liquor Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Stevens. Is there someone here from the Liquor Commission? Commissioner Malkin.
Governor, Councilors, good morning. Joseph Malka, Chairman of New Hampshire Liquor Commission, and with me is our Director of Administration, Trish Peters. Happy to answer your question.
Good morning, Commissioner, and welcome aboard, Ms. Peters. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
And you hit the ground running based on our discussion on I-95. So my question is, we are nearing the finish line on this transition with the proceeds, and these are the last two available parcels of land on 95, correct?
That is correct.
the proceeds will handle the debt, will pay off current bonds, correct?
That is correct.
Hampton will receive more than $1 million annually.
That is correct.
But this is a very complex site to deal with, utilities, water, sewer, and wetlands. But I think the message is we're nearing the finish line.
We are nearing the finish line, correct?
Well done.
Thank you very much. It's been a long process. It'll be well worth it in the end. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. All in favor of the item, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the item carries. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 49 and 51 through 53 from the Fish and Game Department. Any discussion?
Yes. Oh.
Good morning, Governor, councilors. Stephanie Simic, Executive Director for the Fish and Game.
Councilor Wheeler.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, Stephanie. Do we know when we expect to put this project out to bid, and what the timeline is on that 49?
As soon as possible. We're just literally waiting for your approval here, and we want to move forward quickly.
Put out the bid?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Leon.
Great, and I just wanted to commend your department on the work of the folks who did the rescue at Mount Washington over the last couple of days.
Thank you very
Good
much.
job.
Yes, thank you. That was our advanced search and rescue team that responded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Stevens.
Well,
Good morning, Commissioner. It was a pleasure discussing that pending issue with the Atlantic Fisheries regarding the gauge increase for juvenile lobsters. Your team was well prepared to discuss that contract, which has been extended an additional 2 years, but they assure me that the data is coming. But there's great news for our lobstermen. There's a reversal, correct?
Yes, that's correct. As far as I'm aware, yes. I haven't gotten the formal notice yet, but as far as I'm aware, that is in the works.
And I think we owe a lot to our governor for stepping up and supporting our industry. I was at the hearing. You should have been there.
I was told about it. I appreciate our lobstermen. They're wonderful.
It made a huge difference. And this is an industry that has struggled.
Yeah.
Along with those, yeah, in terms of vertical lines, having to be in compliance, getting their docks in, having bodies on board, inspectors. It's $650 before they can even get off the docks. So I've often said this is an industry on the brink of extinction. So anything and everything we can do for the industry is critical.
I appreciate that, and I agree with you fully. We're working, as you noted, diligently to get some research that can help support some of the industry and the needs there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilor Stevens.
Since we're throwing up accommodations, thank you, Director, for helping and attending the permitting roundtable. And also the governor's initiative to move quickly and streamline permitting. I saw your letter, and I just appreciate that on behalf of my district constituents.
You're
As well as
very welcome.
The other commissioners that are here, Commissioner Scott and also Stephanie, what they're doing to all work together. And Governor, I commend you for bringing together your 60-day time limit. It's important, and I think it's going to really increase the supply of housing in the state and also the development of jobs.
I think it's critical, and I appreciated you having a really good discussion that we were able to attend as well. And, stay tuned. There'll be more on it. We're excited to make sure this is a 60-day process.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. We were happy to attend and participate. Thank you.
Great. Councilor Kenny.
I have no accommodations, but I
That's
do
fine.
have a few questions.
Sure.
Some of it might be old news, but so in the contract for Agenda 2, you mentioned that the Milford State Fish Hatchery has been there for several months, and this is a contract to fix that group. One is, can you tell me the status of the burn fish hatchery?
It's in a similar state, actually, and I'm working on trying to get something funded there. We have a capital budget, and we're working to get some bids and get that thing out as well. Actually, I'm sorry, Milford, or, yeah, Berlin, yes. It's on the docket to be repaired as well.
I only mention it because the folks up there several months ago sent a revealing picture.
Oh, yes.
Where they had, plastic over the desk.
Pop-up
and
tents,
buckets
yes.
that were tipping,
Yes.
the raindrops down from the roof. And I suspect that roof was frozen today.
It's been repaired, actually, that part has been repaired.
It's been repaired?
Yeah,
Okay.
but there's more work that needs to be done at all of our hatcheries, to be honest with you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be dismissive.
No, and this is really kind of a question I've had all along with the Milford site. My understanding is that the Milford Fish Hatchery uses the most electricity of any fish hatcheries in the state. At least that's what I've always been told. And that's something you might have to research into.
I will, I'm sorry, yes.
But one of the things I've mentioned for months and probably for years is that we have a nice fund out there at the PUC called the Energy Fund. And since you're doing a complete roof, it would be nice to maybe put solar panels up there or some other renewable energy grant, source to be able to help out the electric costs and further help out the taxpayers in New Hampshire. So I keep throwing that idea out there, and I'm hoping someone will run with it for the Milford.
I'm hearing it today. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Commissioner. All in favor of agenda items 49 and 51 through 53 from the Fish and Game Department signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the items carry. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 54, 55, 57, and 59 through 79 for the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. So moved. Is there a second? Oh, we got two right there. So, any discussion? Councilor Stevens. Commissioner.
Good morning, Sarah Stewart, Commissioner of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources.
Good morning, Commissioner. Agenda items 68 and 69. These are, again, retroactive special use permit requests. Incredible events that we are going to support, but to date, I have yet to see review a special use permit that is not retroactive. At our last meeting, again, we had retroactive contracts well after the events had occurred.
Thank you. You are correct. I have Brian here, who's our director, who spoke to this last time, and we're doing a full analysis of our special use permitting process and expenses and how we charge. So I'll let Brian just update you on what that process is like.
Good afternoon. Sorry, I just ran up the stairs.
A lot going on today.
Some hearings and stuff. The special use permit process, in these particular instances, the impact fees that are associated are not completely finalized until either after the event is taking place. We're working, we have identified a sponsor. It probably won't be till next session, where there'll be a bill to raise the threshold from $2,500 to the GNC to match the GNC cap of $10,000. So we're hoping that our permits won't have to come before Governor Council any longer at that point unless they're over the $10,000.
But that does not assure me that everything is in order, that insurance documents are in order, that appropriate safety measures and protocols are in place. We're just not seeing it. We're not seeing that it is potentially that events are occurring. Could you explain that?
So all the insurance requirements and everything that's required on a permittee's part are all in place, and we have in hand prior to an event actually taking place. On all instances, over 300 permits that we execute over the course of a year, the permit is fully executed, which includes the insurance requirements and everything else prior to the event taking place, with the exception of any permit that has to come before Governing Council, which will be anything over $2,500. We have to work through the process of how to fully execute a permit, which in this case would require Governing Council approval months in advance, and we would also need to know the total amount of fees that we would be applying to them to be able to incorporate into a permit, if that makes sense.
May I make a suggestion? I think it would be helpful for just clarity and transparency if we provide you just a one-page snapshot of the process, the pieces of material paperwork that we need to sign off on and collect before an event can happen, and then our funding calculus to show you how we're assessing the prices. So there's a process of collecting the insurance and understanding if they're renting additional police officers or traffic control people. All of that happens before the event. I think what we're seeing now is that there's some costs that are incurred that we can't pin down before the event that make it some retroactive. But I understand the confusion, and I don't want you to have any misunderstanding about the process. So we can put together a one-pager that you can review, and if you have suggestions or questions on how we can be more efficient, we're always open to that.
The bottom line is that we should be reviewing these and approving them before events, however that can be accomplished. That's the task at hand. Thank you.
Yep. Well, one thing I just want to clarify, Commissioner, since I'm running into the ocean on Sunday, for number 69, and I just want to welcome any counselors, commissioners that want to join me running into the ocean for the penguin fun. So
we'll repeat it for you.
Okay, that's great.
I did last year.
Yeah, there you go. I think they're running concerts. That's pond hockey, I think. I know about it. Yeah.
So there, like the governor says, a lot of ice activity going on, hockey, there's ice fishing, there's flying, the ultimate FAA ice runway. There's a lot going on our lakes. So I got a call 5 minutes before the governing council meeting from the mayor of Laconia, who says Ahern State Park is locked. And the ice fishermen who have been traveling across Ahern State Park for 30 years want to bring their wow houses, I guess, black land to set up shop where they've been doing it for years and years. So I guess it's more directed to you as the State Parks Director, Mr. Wilson, but where are you trying to accommodate fishermen who want to bring wow houses through the Ahern State Park in the Laconia area?
Great. So we have also gotten some outreach from the ice fishing community this winter because the conditions are fantastic, as most folks know right now. Ahern State Park, there is a gate, but it is within the interior of the park that is locked to a access road that is always locked year-round. It is a one-lane road that goes down almost a mile into the park. We have not had vehicle access down to there, to the very small beach area at the lake. But what we also have done is updated our webpage relative to ice fishing access points, which include at Elacoya nearby as well too. So it's something that we look at, and we've had communicated with Fish and Game too, just to make sure that our messaging is aligned with their messaging relative to points of access, safety, and where they can find more information about that.
So that's a good answer, and you kind of escaped the answer I wanted. What do I tell the mayor, and what do I tell these fishermen who've been using an access point, as they say, for 30 years, that is now locked and they can't access it?
For at least the last 5 years or so, to my knowledge, we've had this interior gate at Ahern closed to vehicle access year-round. And so they can still, there's still a parking area. They're welcome to sled their stuff in, which happens at many of our other locations as well too, especially during the winter time where not all state parks are staffed or plowed or maintained when we don't have full operations going.
Governor, I know I need to hop on this, but the last 3 years, it wasn't hardly any acts. So if these guys are thinking that they've done this for 30 years, we need to do kind of the on-hands touch with them and say, let's have a meeting, let's go to the City Hall of Laconia, and let's hash this out. Because that's a part of our economy, our recreational enjoyment. And so I just would hope that we're doing kind of a close approach to the answer to this, because I think it needs calls. We used to be able to go to the Acorn State Park to drop our one-off boxes off because it was a good access point. And if they haven't been used the last 5 years, in 3 out of the 5 years, that hasn't been the case. So I think we need to go back to them and say, we're going to provide you an answer. Thank you. Yep.
We can reach out and follow up with the narrative.
I would appreciate that.
My
Stan
pleasure.
Fosler is on my tail.
Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of items 54, 55, 57, and 59 through 79 from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed, the items carry. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 80 through 92 from the Department of Environmental Services.
So moved.
Any discussion?
I have a couple of questions, Governor, but I also want to make sure for the record, on 84, I'm not voting. I have a conflict.
Okay, so refusal on, noted on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, with regard to item 90, I believe it's 90, yeah. So I've spoken to the town water district in Hooksett, and I've also been to the most recent unveiling of their new water tower, which your department helped them immensely, which is excellent for the town as well. But I'm also hearing that with these projects, the sewer commission, I know it's a local town, is not always in collaboration, working closely with the town water district. So for example, in the last few years, I believe when they were working on building pipes underneath the Merrimack River, the water district wasn't counseled on it, discussed or collaborated with them, and they cost the town over $300,000. So my question to you is, because at the end, looking for loans is going to keep continuing on these important projects, can you and your staff make sure that at the town level, we have these separate districts and separate sovereignty, that they're all working together at the commissioner level, and everybody knows when these projects begin and when they start. So that's all. I just wanted to raise that point. But I have a question on 90. Maybe you can address that after. But the question I have is, maybe you can explain the process. We're going to pay. We're giving this loan, which is important. But there's a section in the contract that talks about a portion of the sum, $196,000, would be basically waived or determined not to have been paid back, but it says up to $196,000. I tried to look through the contract in several pages, and I could not see terms and conditions on what that payback would be. Can you just give me an idea, because I see somewhere we're actually forgiving loans at the end, it might be 10% or less. What is the process to identify whether you forgive a loan or not?
Sure. I may bring Randy Pelletier up if that's all right too, with his vast experience. Yeah, so we're following federal guidelines. We outline every cycle, both for clean water, which is the wastewater systems, and for drinking water, our state revolving fund program. We outline a plan every year that's approved by the Environmental Protection Agency. Within that, we kind of outline within federal guidelines where we can provide loan forgiveness. So it varies depending on the conditions. But as you said, it's an important part of this. So I don't know, if Randy, can you add a little bit more flavor for this particular one?
Yeah, I think when we look at all of these SRF programs, we look at what the projects are, what the community is being served, what the income levels are, and those types of things. And it's not uncommon that generally a lot of the SRF programs, because of the locale that is going in, will get somewhere around 20%. And in some cases, with lower income communities, could be 30% forgiveness. So it's It has been a great initiative when you get into towns, going to town meeting and trying to bond money for an SRF loan payback, that it really enhances their thought process as to, okay, this is, let's say it's $1 million project, we're going to get 30% forgiveness. A lot of that sort of puts the threshold over, and the town will move forward and get into that compliance. So it's been a very effective program. We also have a program on the wastewater side where if you qualify income-wise, you may get an additional 20% state money out of the state aid grant program, which is in the legislation again this season to extend that $15 million per year for the biennium. So the good news is the success rate of towns upgrading their 50-year-old infrastructure is greatly been enhanced by these kind of stipends. So it's very effective.
Thank you. That's all.
There are no further discussion? Oh, excuse me, Councilor.
On item 80 of the Commissioner and I had a little discussions at breakfast, and this is an item to change the MOP regarding repairs to vehicles. The statute requires the council to have a MOP meeting discussion to see if overall there's any changes we want to make to the MOP within 6 months of the new council. So I'm going to recommend that we table item 80 and take this item up at that meeting when we got our eyes focused and our time focused on the MOP in general. This is kind of a blanket item, and the council might say, like we have in the past, well, we want a report on how much the repair is costing. We might want to set up upper limit instead of 10,000. We might want to make it 20,000 per instance. Anyways, I don't think this is the right place to really focus on this item. So I'm going to move that we table item 80, and some issues come up that they need to have repairs. We can have a one-time temporary MOP change or a waiver until we get our final decision on what the MOP is going to be on this subject matter, and that also will apply to another item at the end of the agenda. I'll move to table item 80.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of this motion?
Aye.
The motion carries, and item 80 is tabled. In terms of the remaining items, 81 through 92, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the item is carried. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 93 from the New Hampshire Veterans Home.
So moved.
Is there a second? Oh, we got two. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the item carries. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 94 and 96 through 101 from the Department of Education.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the item.
No on 99 for myself.
No. On 99 noted for Councilor Kenny, otherwise the items pass. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 102 and 103 from the Police Standards and Training Council. So moved. Second. Any discussion?
I have a question on 103.
Councilor Stephen? Director?
Good morning, Madam Governor. Good morning, councilors. My name is John Skip. I'm the Director of New Hampshire Police Standards and Training.
Hi, Director. Thank you. Thank you for being here and for your service. Question I have is on this particular bid. I understand the low bidder was almost a couple $100,000 lower, and because of the 20-point estimate on pricing, again, you see that's where pricing is not valued as much on these technology contracts. I get it, it's important. but I understand you've done everything you can, but when I saw that the lower bidder was $729,000 and the highest was $920, and then you brought the high bidder to the table, which is your right to negotiate, to bring that price down, it was only brought down $6,000. And it's just unusual to me, and maybe the right people weren't at that table negotiating at that time. So I have a concern about that, but not the item. It's very important, I agree. So I want to make sure, though, and you can assure me, that project management in this type of project is critical. The vendor is from another state, I believe Illinois or some other Midwest state, I'm not sure. I saw the background of the project manager. That's the most critical person to make sure this project is on time and done efficiently. And that person, from what I can see, is not going to be in New Hampshire. They're not a New Hampshire resident. I understand there's going to be a lot of Zoom meetings. But I want you to assure me that that person is going to know that New Hampshire is important, and that for the project management of this particular technology project, so the police officers in the state and others in certification and data can get access to their records in a timely fashion, that we're going to make sure we stay on top of that project manager to be here in New Hampshire when he's needed, and not just be out of state doing this on a Zoom basis without physically being in front of your staff. That's my question.
And to be clear, sir, we're speaking of these software?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for the question, sir. We felt that the product that we have brought the contract to this body really met the needs of police standards and training, particularly with regard to the management of investigations on police misconduct. That was something that our present vendor seems to not have as robust a system that we can rely on with any confidence. To that end, the company that we are bringing this contract to this body, Acadis, is a nationally recognized record management system, learning management system for police academies across the country. And it, by all accounts, appears to have a very robust application to manage misconduct investigations, which is a vital gap that we see in our present system. Acadis has employed a number of New Hampshire police officers that are retired. They are here in our state, and they stand ready to be accessible to our implementation team as we begin the implementation process. We feel very confident that we are going to have excellent relationship with this company, particularly with the notion that we have people literally down the street on the seacoast that are New Hampshire cops that understand the system and understand specifically the importance of New Hampshire Police Officer Training's mission and what our goals are. And to that end, I will provide you and this body my assurance that we're going to be able to close the deal and get this project done.
And I'm just going to follow up. The project manager here is from another state, and I saw Acadis, and I understand they do a lot with Homeland Security and others, and I recognize that. But he specifically is working on projects in 3 or 4 other states right now. This is a very expensive project. It's important to local police. It's important to state police. I just want to make sure that the message to the project manager is going to be setting up weekly meetings, managing the entire project, also signing off on all deliverables, making sure they, and I know in the contract compliance, maybe it's Director Goulet or Commissioner Goulet, but somebody is making sure that they are taking the interest of New Hampshire as top priority here in this project. That's all. And if you can assure me that, I'm going to vote positive on this project.
Just to kind of fill in a little bit further, I have been in contact with Commissioner Goulet, and in fact, part of some transfer money that we're asking to be approved is also going to allow us to actually hire an embedded IT person within New Hampshire Police Standards and Training to also assist with this project.
So I think that that's a yes.
I give you my assurance that we'll be able to manage this project and get it implemented on the timeline.
Thank you.
Counselor Stevens?
Good morning, Mr. Skiba. I tried to reach you, and I too had a concern with the disparity of $200,000, and I was going to ask you for some references for other states that may be using the software. It would have been helpful, but the clock was ticking. My concern is that I'm not seeing any sort of formal notification from DOIT that says that they have had their eyes on this, that they have approved the agency's request to enter into a contract. Was there an oversight? Is there a written document? We usually see these letters coming from Dennis Goulet in support of software.
I have the package in front of me. I can tell you that I went through it cursory, but not specific. To that end, we actually asked a representative from New Hampshire DOIT to be part of the scoring project. So New Hampshire DOIT has been involved with this from its beginning. I do know that DOIT did review this vendor and this contract. They've been very involved working with us in support of moving this project forward. And I would hate to put him on the spot, but I see the commissioner here, if you could fill in.
Well, it would just be helpful to get, even if it's retroactive, to get that in writing that it was reviewed and approved by
Mr. Goulet?
Councilors, Dennis Goulet, Commissioner of the Department of Information Technology. I recall that coming across my desk and approving it. So our process is a letter would come to me, I would approve it, and then it would get, my signature attached. So, the only thing I can think in this case is maybe it just didn't get included in the packet, not maybe it was human error or something. But I did. Our part-time IT lead who was supporting PSTC was part of that, and she made sure that she knows the process very well, made sure that it came across my desk. I was aware of it throughout the process, so in support, and we'll definitely be be part of the process of making this successful for New Hampshire.
Well, let's just add that document to the contract.
All right, you got it.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. There's no further discussion. I ask for a motion, not that we already have a motion second. All in favor of items 102 and 103 from Police Standards and Training Council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, the item is carried. Thank you, Director. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 104 to 114 from the Department of State. Second. Any discussion? Councilor Kenny. Commissioner?
Good afternoon, Governor Ayotte, council members, for the record, Bob Quinn, Commissioner of Department of Safety.
Good morning, Commissioner. How are you doing today?
Good, sir.
So my question is on agenda 104. And so 104 is a $4.9 million contract to, replace the current interoperability communications network, also known as, NHICnet. And so we're accepting these funds. So a couple of questions is, when we select the vendor, will that come back to council?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you anticipate we'll use the same vendor, or will it go through the process?
I would hope that it would go up over there, but we can confirm that. This is the acceptance and spend. This is to upgrade the radios at these 41 sites across the state and the backhaul equipment to ensure the interoperability between the state and our main partners, DOT, the NCR, public radio, public broadcasting. But this also connects the counties and local law enforcement.
You said Motorola that has a contract now?
Yes.
It is. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
So more to come on this, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Stevens.
I have just a couple, like 106, which I think is important on elections, the security, transferring dollars to Secretary of State. Is that unusual? Is that something is that for state police involved in election security, we need to enhance that effort? Or is it giving money to the Secretary of State to do their own election security through the Secretary of State's office?
Well, that's a great question. Over the last several years, there's been more done and more focus on election security. This project is actually part of a set-aside as required of federal dollars. So essentially what will happen is these federal dollars
I will allow Director Buxton and HSN to work with the Secretary of State's office, and they will continue to move this product, which is aimed at really increasing awareness and best practices across, all communities for election security.
But you're going to stay involved, Department of Safety will stay involved, not
Yes.
just Secretary of State.
Correct. Director Buxton will work with the Secretary of State.
Okay, and then the next question, real brief, on the 108. These are $522,000 for active shooter training.
Yes,
I know
sir.
you and I have had a conversation about this, and this is a real passion of yours. I appreciate that, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
It's training local law enforcement to work with you collaboratively in responses. And this is extremely important to the department from previous discussions, correct?
Yes, sir, it is. And essentially, these funds, if you look at this was pulled from 22, 23, and 24 Homeland Security dollars. Director Buxton has also made this a priority. So these funds will be designated towards the Fire Academy, Fire Standards and Training. And if you will look, that will go everything from entry-level, operational, practical, all the way up to rescue. So these will be pushed out through the Fire Academy to the fire service.
And the only follow-up to that is, I want to make sure that the incident command system that's used, we're not changing that. We're moving forward to train them on incident command. Is that what you're...
We are, and over the last year, based on what's happened across the country, this being a priority, I know at the governor's level, and I think across all state government, we're looking at standardizations for training and coordination across the public safety community.
Excellent. All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hearing no further discussion on items 104 through 114, all in favor of those items signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed, those items carry. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 115 through 120 from the Department of Justice. Second. Any discussion?
One question, real brief.
Attorney General?
General, on 118, it's kind of unusual to look at this and to see it's substance abuse services that seem to be very critical, that needed for those prisoners in Merrimack County that are going into residential transition settings. And I see where Merrimack County bid against the State Department of Corrections. Now, I haven't seen that in the past, but Merrimack County gets the dollars needed for substance abuse. I'm sure you've looked at the Department of Corrections bid. I'm sure you're in consultation with the Department of Corrections as well. And maybe this goes to you, Governor. But is the Department of Corrections, who did not get these dollars, also looking at the budget this year to make sure that if it's a critical need, that it's being addressed? That was my only question. It's just unusual to see that.
Yeah. What often happens with these grants is that it's one of a number of funding possibilities for various services that agencies provide. So, I mean, I will talk with Commissioner Hanks, and I have talked with Commissioner Hanks to make sure there's no issue there with not being able to provide this service. But I don't have a concern that they're not able to do this because they're not getting this particular funding. But I think in this instance, the decision was made that for this particular grant, it made the most sense for Merrimack County.
Thank you.
Yep.
There's also a lot of cooperation between the Department of Corrections and Health and Human Services on these matters too, in terms of reentry and making sure that there are services provided so that when people do finish their time, they're successful in the community rather than reoffending and coming back in.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Hearing no further discussion on items 115 through 120 from the Department of Justice, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed, the items carry. I ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 121 through 133 from the Department of Administrative Services. So moved. Second. Any discussion? Counselor Stevens. Thank you. Commissioner Arlington.
Hi, Charlie Arlinghouse, Commissioner of Administrative Services.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Agenda item 127. This is the acceptance of a gift of 5.9 acres of land in Rochester to construct a new circuit courthouse. The circuit court will pay Rochester $1. In return, at the conclusion of construction, the state of New Hampshire will sell the current courthouse and land to the city of Rochester for $1. There's no reference to the assessed value of the courthouse. It is $1.4 million, and that's from several years ago, not taking into consideration the demand in downtown Rochester is escalating. To have parking, we have seen the sale, the transfer of other courthouses in the past, such as Dover, which were converted into apartments and condominiums. So this is a ridiculous trade, $127,000 versus a value of $1.4 million. Can you explain that?
This is not uncommon with the way courthouses work in the state, where often for a new courthouse we will accept a gift of land, and often the old courthouse is given to the city or the county or whoever happened to own it. It's often the result of a discussion between the judicial branch and the court system. It's not typically a trade that's done on the basis of we're making money on the deal. We're not real estate developers trying to make a deal here. Is this good for the city of Rochester? It is good for the city of Rochester. Very good for the city of Rochester. And everybody gets that, and nobody's pretending it isn't. Is it good for us? We're getting a piece of land for free where we're going to build a better courthouse. At the end of it, we'll be in a great shape. Are they getting a better deal than we are? I know the judicial branch doesn't think so. They think that all of the intangibles that go along with it make sense. If we were a real estate development company, would we do it this way? No, we would not.
So let me, as a follow-up, close proximity to Skyhaven, I did a sidewalk there probably 30 years ago. There were indications of contamination. I can't find that record. But we do know that the site is clean. There's no water or soil contamination. But we're heading into some belt-tightening times. And I would not be doing my job if I didn't challenge this contract.
Sure.
It's ridiculous.
Okay.
We may very well have right-of-way property on the route DOT. But
all I can tell you is that we're doing it because the judicial branch thinks it's a good deal, and you don't have to agree with them. But I do have to bring it to you.
Thank you. Councilor Kenny.
Thank you. Since I went to high school in Rochester, I know the city pretty well. So as far as the parking is concerned, Ben Franklin, which used to be the old retail store, which has about 200 parking slots, is now leased out by the city of Rochester, which is about 100 yards or less from the actual courthouse. So they have plenty of parking. So it's I don't think parking is an issue. If anything, that building's probably going to be used for either professional office space or for housing. This process went through the New Hampshire legislature, is that my understanding, Commissioner?
Yes. Yes, it did.
And so therefore, it was widely vetted. Everyone agreed to it, both the city, both the state, both the courthouses. And I meticulously watched this process from beginning to end. I think all parties involved are ecstatic about what is about to happen. And I think it's going to build the morale within the court system and the staff and so forth, along with judges. And the city's going to benefit, and everybody around is going to benefit. So I don't see there's any taxpayer crying with regards to this project. Thank you. Would you believe?
Yes, I would believe.
Councilor Stevens.
On other items.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. First of all, Commissioner, on 129, this is the type of contract I think we want to see. You know, janitorial services, 25.69% decrease in current price based on negotiation. I like those negotiators. I want to tell you, you did a great job in getting that service, and that's the type of stuff we want to see. I will ask you a question here on number 133 and 32. First on 132, can you explain to me on this project, because I'm looking at it, and it seems like it's a capital project, but it's 100% general funds.
The capital projects that are described as 100% general funds are projects where the debt service for the capital is paid with general funds as opposed to being paid with dedicated funds. It's not general funds, as capital funds, but the historic delineation the council has preferred for capital is to delineate what capital funds it's coming from. I don't personally like that because I think it misleads you that it's somehow generally funded, and it's not. It's paid for with debt.
Well, thank you for that clarification. Maybe we need to talk about doing more discussions with the other councils about changing that. On 133, I need you to tell me a little more about this project because I really have a concern here. It is a field maintenance shop, and it's $23 million. And this one was $4 million over the department estimate. Again, understand construction costs going up, all of it. But if we table this item and look at this closely to really determine if we can get a better price, is that going to disrupt operations in any major way?
I'll have the general come up and talk too, but let me back up a step and talk a little bit about estimates and why we're over estimate. And actually I have a spreadsheet on my desktop on my computer where I track DPW estimate over and under, and I would tell you that about half our projects are over estimate or half are under. The last time I counted it was exactly 18 and 18. The last 36 it probably isn't exactly 18 and 18, so I haven't counted recently. But what is an estimate? An estimate is where we basically do the process the estimator for the construction company would do. And the same person they look at, RW means and everything else, and then they do an estimate. And it's basically the same job Fred would do if Fred were advising Jim's construction. And they come up with a number. The number is not a prediction of what bids would come in at. It's the estimate that, for example, the construction company would have as well, where he goes in and says, all right, this is how much reasonably I could bid. If I think nobody else is going to bid, I'm going to bid higher. If I think there's wonky stuff in the middle of it, where the state, and you probably know construction companies hate the state for this, because the risk is essentially all on them. It's great for taxpayers, it's bad for the construction company. If you find it isn't really all on them, but it feels to them like it is. And so there's a concern about that. Bigger projects, they tend to build in more room when they bid. So we're guessing this is what we would tell the president of our construction company if he were to bid. And bids come in all over the map, and if they think there's a lot of competition, or they really want it, or they have enough space in their calendar, they're going to bid lower. Sometimes we get a bid where somebody comes in and says, look, I'm a $23 million project for the state is a little bit for me, and so I'm going to build in some room there. And you know what, I don't know if anybody else is going to bid either, but it's kind of where you go. So we do everything. Sometimes we beg people to bid. We don't really, because you have to be careful where you're tampering with the bid process. But we look at people and like, hey, by the way, just so you know what's coming up. And you get what you get. And I think we do a decent job with estimates, but it's not all about inflation. A lot of it is about the bidding environment. And I think in bigger projects, and for the state, this is a relatively big project. It's not $41 million for the forensic hospital, but it's a big project. The contractor is going to build in wiggle room, so to speak. As to what exactly we're building, people who wear uniforms would have a better idea.
Councilor, for the record, David Nicolaitis, Acting General, New Hampshire National Guard. Two questions I believe you have is, one is what are we doing at that facility, and number two is you put the funding in jeopardy.
Yes, and based on what I just heard from the Commissioner, the next question would be in line with that. Have you done what some of the industry call value engineering, and I'm learning, but I have contractors that, will go in, if there's a big bid like this, and you get a lower bid, we'll go in and try to meet with the general contractor, meet with the subcontractors, meet with the folks, and try to bring those costs down. Was that at all done in this case? So that was my third question.
A little.
Yeah, I would say the last question is, I believe so. And the reason why I say I believe so is when you go to the supporting document pages, there's what's called alternate bid items. So there's a base bid, and then what we do is we do alternate bid items, either go higher or lower for what we want want to accept based upon the funding we're provided.
If you look at the bottom of page 2 of the letter, it shows the alternates. There's not a lot of detail, that's later on, but it gives you a sense.
So there's projects, there's additional bid items, alternate bid items that we either accepted or rejected based upon the overall dollar amount. Go back to the original question of what are you doing up there? So we have a lot of legacy Cold War era facilities, both our armories, our training centers, and our field maintenance shops. You know, for example, the Manchester Armory had a field maintenance shop in the basement. We had to deflate tires to get those vehicles to fit into the bay. So as we modernize our facilities, we're coming up with new field maintenance shops that are 100% federally reimbursed. So our large military equipment, our trucks and our Humvees, go to those facilities to be maintained. 100% federally reimbursed, so we built new maintenance facilities in Rochester, Hooksett, and now in Littleton. So that's part of this sort of strategic plan for us to recapitalize our aging infrastructure. The second question is, do you put the funding in jeopardy? We are graded on executing our military construction funds in the year of appropriation. This is a federal fiscal year 24 project. It had bid opening, I think, on September 28th, plus or minus. So trying to execute those funds in the year of appropriation is how we are evaluating future military construction projects. So if you table this for 2 weeks, does it put an impact on breaking ground? Maybe not necessarily, but it sets a precedent for us that puts us in an awkward predicament of not executing the year appropriation, so that next time we go competitive for a next construction project, that'll be part of their evaluation against us.
So follow-up, if we wait till the next meeting, which is 2-3 weeks, and we go back to this contractor and to see if they can reduce the price, is that something untoward and hasn't been done in the past? Because it doesn't seem like it's going to be an impact.
But it's probably this question, but I would just say I believe they have already done that. So that's why they look at alternate bid items, and they look and say, okay, what is the cost? You know, it's a challenging market out there. The inflationary pressures, you know, we are happy because we actually received all the federal funding to award this project, right? So,
okay.
I mean, generally with a bid, because it's a bid, not a proposal, there's less negotiating, because if you negotiate too much, you have to rebid instead, the AG's guidelines on what you do. And it's why we do alternates. When you see alternates, they're usually add alternates and delete alternates. And a lot of that is building a menu. Because when you go back and negotiate, they're not going to, they don't say, you know what, I'll do it for $2 an hour cheaper. What they do is say, okay, what do you want to not do? And you end up in that discussion. And if the funding's available and it's 100% federal, odds are we would, in discussing it with our client, which is him, we would say, you know, if you have the money, is there something you don't want to do? And he would probably say, well, no, we wanted to do it, that's why we bid it.
I appreciate that. And Commissioner, maybe you can explain to me, and we'll have off-the-record discussion, maybe we can have a meeting, because I have constituents in my district that I trust, that are very well entrenched in the construction industry, and have told me that the specs in the state sometimes are unnecessary, and these costs are way overvalued. So I want to make sure we have fiscally responsible items that are brought to this table, no matter what we're building. And when I see $4 million over estimate and all these others, I have to, as a counselor, on behalf of my constituents, question.
No, I would welcome that. I think it's helpful.
I fully agree that we should look at the process and make sure that we're doing the best we can as your taxpayers on this. But I just want to clarify, General, since you're rated on timing, and I assume we're competing with states across the country for this 100% federal funding, which is quite competitive, you're concerned if we don't execute?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilor Leo.
For the Commissioner, we have several large projects that we're anticipating. Can you talk a little bit about what the impact of tariffs could be on these projects?
It's a good question. Well, anything you approve, there's no impact, because we lock in the price and it's sort of on them. How tariffs impact what we do generally, we're doing some research on. Our purchasing division is actually doing a project right now to try to figure it out. It's a guess, frankly. On construction, realistically, one of the big things you would look at is steel. U.S. steel tends to be more expensive than Canadian steel, let's say. But we already locked that in. The legislature passed a bill 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I don't remember when now, that requires us to use American steel. So that we're already tariffed, so to speak, if you want to say, on that. And so the question becomes what happens on pine and a couple of other things. And I think we're going to tease that out. And if I'm honest, I'm not going to be able to give you a great answer, because how suppliers react to the price changes is one of those things where are they going to raise their prices just because they have protection, or are we going to use domestic more? And let's be honest, at some point, I don't think either Canada or Mexico just goes, you okay? I mean, it's probably somebody's going to react.
Thank you.
Councilor Stevens?
Just a point of correction on item 133.
I want to know, did you eliminate all your electricians so you can't do electric work anymore? And they would want to look at that. So that's what you see. Most of the reclass work, it is expressly prohibited to just give somebody a raise, to use a reclass. In fact, you can't do that. And our Division of Personnel gets yelled at by agencies all the time because they're like, look, I want to upgrade somebody. And the response back is always, that's not a thing. You can't upgrade people. It's not, if somebody changes jobs, that's different. Their job has to literally change. It can't be more work. It can't be more, it has to change. Most reclasses are vacant reclasses. And typically what happens there is so difficult to create a position in the budget process in the system. It is often the case that in the budget process, governors and legislatures will say to an agency, look, you've got 283 positions. I'm not giving you any more. Figure it out within. And so you take, Sherry was once in a position as deputy comptroller that had been an electrician before. And she knows nothing about electrical work at all, for example. And so you do, I think, I really shouldn't know that, but I shouldn't say that out loud. But there's I know nothing about electrical work. And so that happens. And so most reclaims, that will show up on your sheet as an increase in cost, because it's budgeted as whatever. And you changed it to something completely different, not because they got a raise, not because they got more money, but because it's now a different position. The other thing you need to know about the budget impact of these things is the reclass you are required to eat within your budget. If it costs more, you have to suck it up. Your accounting unit line does not change. You have, $1.2 million in class 10. And class 10 doesn't change because you got a reclass. And it's what you have to do. So I say that not to say that you shouldn't put a hold on all reclasses, but if you do here, you need to tell the legislature, because they will have to do their job differently if you're doing this differently. And which, by the way, great. Whatever you guys want to do is fine. We just have to know what it is. And then the only thing I would say on the mock change is, I just want the whole council to know that in October, you did this. Obviously, half of you weren't here. But you did this for safety. And what you're doing is saying, but not for anybody else. So it's one set of rules for safety and one set for the rest of us.
I'm going to respond to that, Governor. And I would expect that when we get to the mock, that it'll be the same for everybody. If we change the mock or ask for a higher threshold than 10,000, to still get some reporting, or we just might want after action retroactive report. So we'll make, I'm confident we'll make it equal for all the agencies when we have our.
You have a fuller discussion.
Yeah. And then if I had to respond on the reclass discussion. So if an agency has a total amount of money and they're getting the raise money out of their pot, if they didn't do that, would that money not possibly lapse back to the general fund?
Yes, it would.
And I would like to clarify as well that we do have a hiring freeze in place. So if it's a vacant position and someone is seeking to fill a vacant position, unless it's specifically exempted, which are the public safety and some direct service positions, it would have to get approval from the governor's office right now.
So I got the motion on to table item 1.
Is there a second on the motion to table them off? All in favor on the table motion? Aye. That motion passes, and now we'll return to items 121 through 133, with the exception of 123 that's on the table. All in favor of those items?
I'll just add a question on one of the items.
Okay.
Thank you, Governor. So, more of an update, more of a question. Both, I guess. So, on the Coney State property, my understanding, and this is for informational purpose for the council and governor, the due diligence period has ended, which was January 31st. And Pillsbury has gone ahead and said that they want to continue the contract. They deposited an additional $250,000, which is now an escrow balance of $500,000. And so they're in a permitting contingency period. And the filing application for a master development plan will take place with the city of Laconia in coming weeks or months. And there'll be various state permits, applications that will be applied for. The reason why I mention this, because this particular contract that we have for security purposes on the Laconia State property is, I believe, for a 2-year period. And it's very well that the property could be sold this year. Hopefully we get our check to help us out. And therefore that would do what to the contract? You have something in that contract that gives us an opportunity.
Yeah, we can stop when we sell the property. We can end the contract when we sell the property. I just want to, I don't want anyone to be misled. When the purchase and sales was approved in, whenever that was, I remember the meeting in Wakefield, but September, October, or August, okay. Our prediction was that the closing would be in about 2 years.
18 months.
What we said, what my department said was about 2 years. The councilor may think it's 18 months, but I just want everyone to know that don't spend it before you get it.
I would just add that this development company is moving in the right direction.
No, it's great, and nothing about them. It's they have they're allowed to walk away, and they would lose a little bit of money, but it's a long way ahead.
Okay. Well, we're going to try to make it a short way ahead.
I'll leave that in your hands.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to point out that this particular contract, there's an opt-out provision, and that the developer actually might come back and say, could you continue that contract for a few extra months? Could they do that?
Once we sell the property, the developer could negotiate anything they want with the contractor, but the state, once we own the property, would not.
That's it.
Well, we don't have a way to do things where we watch somebody's property somebody else owns and they reimburse us for the cost. It would be really messy and without precedent. But I'm sure the security company could work something out with Mr. Kettenbach.
Okay, thank you. That's the update.
Thank you for the update, and so I would then go back to hearing no further discussion. Obviously, item 123 is off the table, but the remainder of the items, 121 through 133, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No on the courthouse. Okay, no. On that item for Councilor Stevens, just 127, I believe. That's right. No on that item for Councilor Stevens, and now we will go to the remainder of the table items, which are from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. I ask for motion to remove from the table item 36 from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs.
I'll make the motion for the discussion of this.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll
Aye.
So that motion is passed. Hearing everyone say aye. So now is there further discussion? Is there a motion on the item taken off the table in a second?
Yes. Is the commissioner here or someone from? Oh,
I
sorry.
need a second.
Oh, sorry.
I need a second. Just for our purposes of discussion.
Was there a motion?
There was no money. Another council would give me a second on that motion. Second. Thank you. Commissioner Caswell.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. I think there were some questions at the last council meeting on this topic. Can you, and I think there was a question about whether this work could be completed in-house. Can you talk further about this, the rationale behind this contract?
Yes, so that was one of the questions that we went back, and I think we attempted to provide some information to the council in written form last week with regard to that. At this point, as we discussed previously, we have a program ongoing that we need to be able to continue to administer in order to keep our program rated as low risk by the federal government. And in order to accomplish that and accomplish the requirements of the state workforce strategy plan that the federal government requires for us to get funding, at this point, it would be necessary for us to do that externally, and we would not be able to have the resources to do both internally.
I have another question, but if anyone else has other questions, I'm happy to defer.
The only issue I have is, Commissioner and I spoke earlier about this. I'm still not in favor of this item. I feel strongly that the commissioner, if he doesn't have appropriate resources within his department today, that he can find them working with the governor in the office, through the budget, or whatever. Because the WIOA plan, the way I understood it, correct me, Commissioner, if I'm wrong, isn't due till maybe April or May 2026. It's a pretty comprehensive plan. I get that. I understand fully. But I just don't understand that we can't have a state employee, like I've seen in other departments, being able to shepherd this plan, do the stakeholder engagement, facilitation, have the meetings, start to draft the plan amendment. I've helped states do plan amendments. It's a template you're using. But the important thing is the outreach. And you do a great job with these programs. I would like to see some of those dollars spent on those programs. And my position hasn't changed.
Councilor Stevens?
What is the risk, the potential loss of federal dollars if deadlines are missed?
I might ask Joe Bryant to address that question. Joe runs our WIOA programs in the state.
Good afternoon, Governor. Good afternoon, councilors. For the record, Joe Bryant from DEA. So we receive federal guidance regularly through what are called Training and Education Guidance Letters, or TEGLs. We have the federal legislation that we have to follow, but they provide updates on that throughout to reflect administration priorities for the new administration that's in, but they also provide information on the consequences for not complying. So it could be a delay in receiving our funds, it could be a loss in funds, it could be sanctions that they place upon the state for non-compliance. So I hope I addressed your question.
What's the dollar value at stake?
So we at DEA administer, it fluctuates. We receive a state formula each year from the federal government. We don't get to control that. We receive approximately $8 million just in the funds that DEA receives. But this is a larger project across multiple state agencies, including the community college system, Department of Education on the Bureau of Adult Education, along with both rehab, Commissioner Kapatis' operation, New Hampshire Employment Security, with on the Wagner-Pizer side, unemployment, and also DHHS. So we are all combined partners. That's why it's called the Combined WIOA State Plan. It's a very long title. And we have to work collaboratively together, so there could be impacts, potential impacts across the board.
Thank you. Councilor Leo Hill.
I just want to follow up on that. I'm having a hard time understanding $8 million impact when you're telling me we can't find dedicated state employees that can do this service within the time required to continue that really good programmatic outcome that we have. And I'm sorry, what you're saying, that the $8 million at risk, you're saying the state employees can't do this work. And I don't agree with that. I'm just trying to for the record.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Phelan.
Thank you. While I have you here, we've heard a lot today about the uncertainty related to the impact that tariffs might have on different aspects of state government. What are you hearing, Commissioner, from our business community in New Hampshire?
I would just say that we're seeing a response, a lot of volatility. People are not sure kind of what to do, and maybe it's that volatility has created some situations where mergers and acquisitions, other capital expenditures maybe have been put on hold. But at the same time, we've also heard that there are businesses that typically on the Canadian side of the border that typically do business in the United States or considering moving operations into the United States as their own hedge for this. So it's really an unclear sort of picture as we're in this sort of tariff purgatory at the moment. But I think volatility is probably the biggest thing. At the same time, we really enjoy a very positive relationship at the state level with all of the provinces in Canada, and we've worked throughout this to continue to maintain that.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion on table item number 36 from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So, all opposed?
No.
So the item fails. Is there any other business to come before the Executive Council today?
Special privilege, Governor. I just wanted to thank you, Governor, for your support for the funding for the Northern Border Alliance Security program that Governor Sununu put in place. People know here recently we lost a U.S. Border Patrolman in a very tragic incident that occurred in Vermont. But that particular U.S. Border Patrolman also covered New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire. And for that program, it's been an extreme success. People say, well, maybe we don't have the statistics. Well, we don't have the statistics because we have a deterrent. Bad guys and actors will go to other places besides our 58 miles of New Hampshire border. The business community in Pittsburgh has been elated. The law enforcement has been extremely happy about the program. They've been extremely supportive. They feel like state government is on their side and listening to them. We as a council and past councils have been supportive of these contracts. I hope that this council will continue to support these contracts in full to support our men and women on the borders of northern New Hampshire. Because when you get that call and you're by yourself and you're in the middle of nowhere in the winter and you don't have a backup and communication is spotty, you want to make sure that there are backups so that when you do get communication that you'll be able to defuse the situation at hand. Because that was a very unfortunate incident that happened in Vermont. And we have a history in northern New Hampshire where the U.S. Border Patrol has supported us, particularly in the Drager incident. If it weren't for Vermont Border Patrol that helped us neutralize that target, God knows what would have happened. We work collaboratively in the North Country with our law enforcement community. That also includes our federal law enforcement. So I hope we continue to fund this program and that we have unanimous support here at the council. Thank you, Governor.
Special privilege.
Sure, Councilor Leopold.
Over the last 3 weeks, I have met with 37 of our state commissioners and department heads, and I just wanted to say thank you very much to everyone, including many division directors and staff, and I just wanted to say thank you very much to all of our leaders who met with me and helped orient me to the incredible operations of our state government. I was really impressed with the quality of the people who work for the state of New Hampshire. And so I just wanted to say on the record how thankful I am.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for being here at the Governor and Council meeting today, and our meeting is officially closed. Thank you very much.